Voice of the Knicks and the voice of the NBA on ESPN ABC. He's a basketball Hall of Famer. Did you know that he was born on the greatest birthday in the history of humankind, May 22nd, 1961?
Just like you?
Just like
me.
Man. On the same day. Okay. Yeah, the great Mike Breen. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. Did you guys do this when you were kids? You would find like your favorite sports athlete that had the same birthday as you?
Yes.
Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
My brothers, I'm one of 6 boys, and we all did that. And some of my brothers had birthdays of great stars. My biggest star back then was Tommy John.
Yes.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yeah.
A great pitcher. And I remember one of my brothers, the only one he could find was a kind of a journeyman pitcher named Larry Sherry. And we would make fun of him all the time. Like on his birthday, we'd sing "Happy Birthday" to Larry Sherry. And I'm knocking Larry Sherry, who made it to the major leagues a lot more than I ever accomplished. But whenever somebody talks about birthdays, that's the first thing I think of.
He was no Tommy John, that's for sure. He was no Tommy John.
No.
Yeah.
No. How are you guys doing?
We're
not good. Not good.
Yeah.
Not
Mike,
good.
how could your team treat Doug Christie like that when he's a former Knick?
Yeah, I was shocked at what happened. Not necessarily. I expected the Knicks to play well because they had come off 2 rough losses. They were, kind of floundering a little bit with Jalen Brunson out. So I had a feeling they were going to come out with a force and play well. But I didn't think the Kings would respond. I mean, obviously the loss the night before to the Clippers, one of those just absolutely crushing defeats. But I was surprised on how one-sided the game was last night.
Hey, Mike, Kyle Draper here. My co-host is going to ask you the basketball questions. I'm going to ask you the broadcaster questions. I'm doing that game last night, and obviously it's a blowout. Knicks are up big, 35 at one point. As a broadcaster, how do you handle when your home team, or even on a national level, there's a blowout in the game?
Those are the ones that you earn your money, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And that that's actually where your preparation of stories comes in. I think you probably agree, Kyle, that when we broadcast a game and we prepare for it, the amount of information that's out there right now is it's off the charts. You could spend hours and hours on just one game, so you do your preparation. But in most cases, when the game is good and competitive, if you use like 15, 20% of the stuff you prepared for, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So when it gets to those kind of games, then it becomes a lot more than the 15 or 20%, whether it's personal stories. I had the benefit last night, and your color analyst is the key for those. Jamal Crawford, who was a former Knick, who has so many stories, and especially, about players that he played against. So, I lean on them, whether it's Jamal doing those games or when Clyde is doing the games with me for the Knicks. So that's really important. And by the way, Jamal was talking about how, Doug Christie was one of his idols growing up in Seattle, and he used the phrase, "Doug Christie changed my life."
Wow.
So stories like that help on blowouts.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of your analysts, what do you think of the job that Jeff Van Gundy's doing? How pleased are you to see the job he's doing with the Clippers?
I'm so thrilled for him. As much as he was, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame broadcaster, he's a coach through and through. And to see him back on the sidelines and so engaged, I'm still, guys, it just blows me away how he has not received an offer to come back and be a head coach. The guy he's a brilliant coach. He proved it again when he did that Team USA in the FIBA qualifying. He's just a great coach, and he's done a great job on the defensive end for Tyronn Lue.
Yeah, you guys had great chemistry. I'm sure you knew that and felt that, but it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, they Mark and Jeff were just the best partners you could possibly have, and the chemistry thing was a buildup of 30 years of. When I broke into the NBA as a radio broadcaster for the Knicks, Jeff was the assistant coach and Mark was a player. So we grew up together in the NBA and watched our kids grow up together. So that's a big part of it. And Kyle, as you know, I mean, it takes time to develop that kind of chemistry. I mean, you can have good chemistry right away with certain analysts or analysts with play-by-play folk. But to really get that where you almost know exactly what the other one's thinking and you can finish the other sentences. It's like you're a married couple. That takes time to do. And we had a lot of time to build what I thought was just the best chemistry.
We got the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Famer, three-time Sports Emmy Award winning for outstanding play-by-play, Mike Breen, joining us. Mike, what would you say is the state of the NBA? A lot has been made about, so many three-pointers, officiating, replay. You've covered the league for decades now. What is the state of the play in the NBA right now?
I think the skill level has never been higher. I think the athletic prowess of today's NBA player has never been better. Now, does the league have some issues that need to perhaps be tweaked or fixed? Absolutely. As does the NFL, as does Major League Baseball, as does the NHL. Every league has their flaws and changes that have to be made. And the three-pointers, sometimes there's no question that could be something that has to be looked at. But if anybody wants to say, oh, what's wrong with the NBA? Just spend the night, watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander perform. Spend one night, and I mean a whole game, start to finish. Watch Nikola Jokic. Watch any of these great players. Those two guys are as good as anybody who's played the game. They're having MVP seasons that even the greatest MVPs would be proud of to have. And there's so many talented players out there, and there's so much terrific young men who are playing night in and night out. I think the league's in a magnificent place. Again, it has some flaws. It has to change some things. But that's the case all the time. That's all part of the evolution of the NBA and every other sports league.
That, of course, is the great Mike Breen, who, by the way, shares a birthday with Sherlock Holmes creator Arthur Conan Doyle. Mike, there you go. The Kings obviously didn't put their best foot forward last night. But what have you made of the way this team has responded to all the incredible challenges they've faced, from losing one coach, firing a coach, and then trading De'Aaron Fox, and they've been staying afloat? What from afar? What have you thought of the job Doug Christie's done and the way this team has handled all this?
Well, you guys just talked about chemistry in the broadcast booth. It's the chemistry on when you change a head coach mid-season, when you trade basically the face of the franchise mid-season. That's a big disruption, and I think they've handled it brilliantly. I think Doug's done a great job. I think the players have too. They obviously the last two nights have been rough, but ever since the trade, they've kind of banded together. I felt they've been improved defensively, and when you look at the lineup, like when everybody's healthy, when you have a DeMar DeRozan, who I think is the most unheralded star in the league. Obviously, Zach LaVine, who's got athleticism and skills off the charts, and then Sabonis, who I don't understand why he doesn't get bigger play for the numbers he's putting up. This is a terrific team. We got some good young talent as well. I'm always impressed with Keon Ellis. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him every night, but I think they've got a lot of talent. Doug's done a good job with them. If they can be more consistent defensively. And get a little bit better commitment defensively on a regular basis, I think they could be a team that people are going to be afraid of to play in the playoffs.
Mike Breen joining us. Mike, obviously a number of signature calls throughout your career. And, when we watch you, especially on the national broadcast, your famous bang call with a big three-pointer, where did that come from? Where did the bang come from in your career?
It started, guys, when I was a student at Fordham University in the Bronx. And like, a lot of college kids, I just was crazy for my school's team. And I would go to all the Fordham games that I wasn't broadcasting on the student radio station. And there'd be like 10 of us, and we'd be sitting in the stands, just going crazy, hooting and hollering. And this was even before the three-pointer. There was no three-pointer then. Mm-hmm. And when a Fordham player hit a big shot as a fan in the stands, that's what I would yell out. And after I yelled it out a few times, I thought, maybe I'll try it on the student broadcast. And I tried it on the radio on the student broadcast. And after using it a couple of times, I'm like, nah, that doesn't work. I don't think it works. So I stopped it. And then I started, after I got out of college, I started doing this high school game of the week package for a company that's no longer around. It's Sports Channel America.
Oh, yeah.
And they tried to compete with ESPN back in the day. And we did a Friday night high school game of the week in the greatest high school gyms across the country, sometimes bandboxes. The places were packed. And it was so loud in those gyms that at the end of a close game on a big shot, I didn't have the strong enough voice to override the crowd. So I needed like a concise call on a big shot. And I went back to that, and I thought it worked pretty well, especially when it was the home team that was hitting the shot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of got started, and I started doing it, and I liked it, got a little feedback on it, and it's has been a nice thing to serve me well over the years.
It's iconic now. Yeah. I want to thank you, Mike, because I know this was months ago, but somebody asked you that old question. I'm not going to ask you the GOAT question, but someone asked you that question, and you said comparison is the thief of joy, which is like, that's a perfect answer. So I wanted to ask you, though, not who's the greatest player, but well, all the players that you've covered and broadcast, is there a favorite player you've had over the years, just watching and broadcasting?
Oh, it's really impossible. I'm not trying to cop out, but it's impossible.
Yeah.
I'll just like for today's players, watching Steph Curry perform what he does night in and night out at the size that he is has just been. It's been one of the joys of my career. And watching LeBron James have the longest prime in pro sports history. I mean, his prime has lasted forever. Everybody says, oh, they get past your prime a certain age. No, his prime is still going. Yeah. And to watch his commitment to winning every night after night, year after year, those great players are for me, it's been a privilege to broadcast those games. But then again, then you look at some of the other players who never make an all-star team, who are such a key component to their team's success. They don't get the individual plaudits, but they're so essential because there's more of them in the league than the superstars. The grinders and the role players, they make up most of what the NBA is all about. Like, for example, and you saw this last night, Kyle, a guy like P.J. Tucker, who the Knicks just signed. He didn't play last night. This guy, his story, what he did to get himself to be a real NBA player, to me, those are the great stories of the NBA. And, he never made an all-star team. He never made an NBA all-defensive team. All he did was help every team he played for win. And those are the kind of players I like as well. So it's hard to pinpoint those. But as much as I love the superstars, I love those role players who are essential to a team's success.
Mike, you've seen some of the game's greats up close and personal, had some memorable calls. Which one stands out to you from a call standpoint? Steph Curry, Ray Allen, which one do you look back and say, man, that was a great moment and I was happy to be a part of it?
Again, I've been so blessed, guys, that it's hard to name it. You mentioned Steph shot in that Oklahoma City game during the regular season. As far as the regular season moment, that's probably as big a regular season moment. But I think, anytime it's in a finals and it's a game-changing play that perhaps decides a championship, those are the ones that stand out. Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot, Miami doesn't win that title. Yeah. If LeBron James doesn't make that block shot on Iguodala, the Cavs probably don't win a title. So lots of times it's shots like that. But even like last year, the playoffs, Jaylen Brown hit a huge three against Indiana in Game 1 that maybe if he doesn't hit that turns around a series. Dante DiVincenzo hit this miraculous shot on one of the craziest sequences I've ever seen at the end of a playoff game for the Knicks. So there's just, again, there's so many that come to mind.
Well, Mike, we appreciate your time very much. And we hope to talk to you again, if not sooner, then certainly during the finals when the Knicks and the Kings collide for all the marbles. So can we pencil you in for that?
Yeah, and if not that, call me on May 22nd on Tommy John's birthday.
Yes.
And we'll discuss famous birthdays.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
See you soon, man.
Yeah, Mike Breen, who years and years ago, he was a regular on the Don Imus show, which used to air on this station.
Really? I
Way
didn't know
in
that.
the
Okay,
90s and maybe
okay.
even in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So he's
All
no
right.
stranger to this station.
So you guys were born not only to
Same
say,
day.
like 61.
Yes.
That was wow. That's
Yes.
impressive. That's
Yeah.
impressive. All right.
I don't know if it's impressive.
No,
but
it
it's a
is,
fact.
man.
Yeah.
Two legends born on the same day.
He's a Hall of Famer. Jay can't even get me in the Vallejo
I
Sports
know,
Hall
right?
of Fame. And he's tried. And I appreciate it.
Hey, you slow down over there. I might have some news for you.
Uh-oh.
All right. When we come back, Doug Christie trying to bring this team in for a soft landing. How can he do it next? Sactown Sports.
Thursday night.